guys, BBI here. I want to stop and say thanks for tuning in and checking out whatever the video is about that's about ready to come up next. If you could take a minute and hit subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoy what you've seen here, make sure to hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate your support. Anyhow, guys, all that aside, let's get on with the show. Do not attempt to adjust your YouTube. Do not turn your phone upside down. Don't do any of those crazy things. Look, it's just heat sink down. It's real simple. Don't, whatever you do, try and stand on your head and look at your phone at the same time and do that. Okay, look, this is a metron. This is a very, very rare amplifier. I've had one other one come through here. We bought it at a Puyallup Ham Fest here a couple years ago. And this one varies from the other one. Instead of having the big bodied 455s in it, this guy put 1446s in it. Now, this amp is designed to do roughly 1,000 watts on all bands. It is completely relay driven, or not relay driven, remote driven. So they made a remote that went with this that allowed it to change functions, which is on, off, and then all the bands. It literally goes from 160 meters, the very edge of 160, all the way up to 10 meters straight through. The reason that we're working on this today is the gentleman that owned this, he kept having a problem with the breaker popping on the front. You couldn't get this box to do more than about 400 watts without the breaker going, oh, no, Bob's your uncle. And it just quit. It couldn't keep up with the pressure. So I thought, okay, breaker, no big deal. Boy, was I wrong. This has an Aero pack, believe it or not, 35 amp breaker with a 60 amp surge with a very, very rare meter shunt attachment to it. Now, the reason I say it's rare is because this is a gear-driven front toggle. This front toggle is something aftermarket that they bolted onto the Aerovox or Aeropack breaker. It's a trip. I spent an entire day yesterday looking for this breaker replacement. Was not able to find one. Aeropack makes a ton of breakers. I looked at ma1000. I looked at, you name it. They had ones that were close, but they weren't the exact specification. So now, what I did is I went, well, okay. I went in and I drilled out by hand all of these insertable pop rivets here. And I took the whole breaker apart. The inside of the breaker looked like somebody had been in there kind of messing around with an arc welder on the contacts. So I cleaned the contacts up clean. And the end result, I think you guys will agree, is good. Okay, so the other thing that happened here, let me explain to you what you're looking at. This little jumper right here, all this is doing is simulating this amplifier being in transmit. How this works is on the remote box itself is an RCA jack that you're supposed to tie to the radio so that when you key the microphone up, because remember, this thing is actually designed to run on sideband most of the time. When you key the microphone on your radio up, it sends a small ground signal out of the amp aux port, and it'll cause the amplifier to go into transmit. So when we reach over here and manually select the band that we want to be on, see if I got power going on. I should. Oh, I forgot to turn on the power switch. Silly me. When we step on the microphone and the amplifier is in the appropriate band, that's off. That's 160 meters. That's 80 meters. It causes this relay here to transmit, go into transmit mode. So our input power comes up, comes through this relay, goes through the input circuit. Now, over here in the corner is your bias adjustment. This has got a voltage regulator and a reference potentiometer, so we can actually adjust the bias. We did not touch this. It looks like it has been moved. I'm not touching it. This thing works great, just the way it sits. There's a couple little nicks on the insulation here from when the transistors got changed. And like I said, there's a bunch of 1446s in here. Now, the other thing I had to come and replace was this little guy here. This little tiny piece ass of wire, okay? Where this sat was right here. This little hoop of wire right here. I replaced it with the same gauge, Teflon based. All that does is mechanically take, or electrically take, from a soldered connection on the eyelet over to the remote jack for ground. But in the same breath, the two bolts that hold the eyelet down have got a shorting bar that comes off the body and goes across for the relay. So the only thing I could think that has happened is at some point or another, this nut has come loose from the power port or the power source in this guy's mobile. And for a hot second, the amp was trying to pull all of its ground current, and somehow the coaxes became disconnected or were loose and weren't making a good ground. All the current to run this amplifier was trying to get pulled through the remote. It didn't fail, but it came close. It got really hot. It actually left burn marks on the ground wire here. So if it was me, I'd be checking my remote wire, because the remote on this thing, if I'm not mistaken, is about 20 foot long. That ground lead on the remote might be a little iffy. Something to think about. I'm telling you, something to think about. So all that aside, let's go and make our attention to all of our measuring units over here. We have a 1000 watt slug in peak power on the right, 1000 watt slug in the middle in average, 5 watt slug in reverse from the Bird 10,000 watt dummy load, 5 watt slug between the ICOM 7300 and the radio, or the amplifier, I mean. So we're going to start out on 80 meters just to show this thing running. We're going to come up here, we're going to show you that the power, whoa, we're going to show you that the power, really, tripod? Show that the power is all the way up and the mic gain's all the way up for sideband, okay? Hello, 1, 2, hello. So now we're going to pan down over here. Man, I'm having all kinds of difficulties today. It must be that my mind's on other things. We're going to pan down over here. Relock that down and show you drive. Hello. Now we know this amplifier is working on all bands. We don't have to show that. But what we do have to show is this. So let me set this up so it stays latched up. Hello. Hello, audio. Hello, audio. It's interesting how that average meter is getting way over there, but point's proven. It's doing 800, 900 watts. It is what it is. Now, by cleaning the contacts in the front of this amplifier in the breaker positions, let's go down here and look at the amp meter. You'll see this needle moving here. Hello. They have a 30 amp breaker, and it's showing on this meter that it's pulling 80 amps worth of draw. But when we go over here and we look at the amp gauge of 14 volts, hello, actually pulling closer to 120. Needless to say, it's working. And it's working really well. for 8 transistors of the 1446 persuasion. It is what it is. It's just fixed. There's a couple things that we could do in here to make it work slightly better. We could upgrade the wire going to the going from back here to up here, and upgrade the wire going from here to here. But then we're pulling all that current through this little breaker, or this little contactor here. I don't think I'm going to do that. The only reason it was here is because when he went to use it on 80 and 40 meters, which I guess we should run it on 40 as well, right? Hello. 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 This breaker kept tripping. I'm telling you, this breaker was just filthy on the inside. Just absolutely filthy. So, it's fixed. It does its thing. I was always really impressed with these. I'm not gonna lie. This and its little brother, the SS750 made by Henry. Great amplifiers. Very clean, with a switchable low pass filter section on the output side. Notch filtering, pardon me, not low pass, notch filtering. Because low pass would mean every frequency and down wide open to 0. This has actually got a variable notch frequency that moves back and forth. Covered that in the Henry SS750 video, by the way, if you guys want to go watch that. As far as I know, between this and the Henry, these are pretty much the largest commercially made mobile all-band HF amplifiers that aren't completely absurd in price. This is a rare find. If you see one of these sitting at a Hamfest and it's in good shape, yeah, it's a pretty rare thing. But then again, to be able to do 800 watts on, 80 meters from the mobile, you're going to get your name called on a lot of nets, that's for sure. Guys, I've got an incredibly crazy day coming up here today, and I've got to flow on away from this, and I got to go do some other things. And it's mid-afternoon, so I probably won't be able to get this out till later this evening for y'all. But this is just a quick little reference video for the customer, so we could demonstrate to him that the thing is working, and our breaker reset issue has been thoroughly addressed. Big shout out to Excess Power, big shout out to Siglin, of course. Big shout out to Coaxial Dynamics and Bird for all of their support that they give us. And a big shout out to all of you guys. I appreciate all your patience and working with me. And no, I am still not taking on any new work whatsoever. No new repairs, no new builds. I've just got to focus on the giant mountain of work that's already here. So on that note, gentlemen, I got to say, have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. Be nice to each other. We're all in this hobby together. And another guy, 10-8 straight. See you guys. Bye.